Panthers Nation, what up, though? What's going on? It's Aaron Duncan here, back again with another Panthers video. Gonna talk about the offseason, man. I already did my offseason preview video. If you missed that, I'll link it up around here. But I want to talk about the wide receiver position on this team because we know we need to get weapons for Bryce Young. Also need to get protection in offensive line. We'll save that video for another day. But today, we're talking about receivers. Whether it's in free agency or the draft, we need to upgrade these weapons. Going the veteran route is a good thing as well, but we also need to probably double dip in the draft. So I want to look at a list of a couple of receivers that are available in free agency, that could be available in free agency, that they should potentially target. But since the Carolina Panthers only have $32 million in cap space, obviously they do have ways they can get a little bit more out of that. I talked about that in my offseason video. I want to look at some wide receivers on the market in different tiers. You know what I'm saying? I want to look at top of the line. You know what I'm saying? Your Saks Fifth Avenue, your Neiman Marcus, all that type of stuff. The next tier down, maybe a little nice Macy's type of shop. You maybe find some nice clothes or something like that at Macy's on the upper tier there. Not the most expensive thing in the world, but you can still look nice and find something decent at there. But I also got to go to the cheap, you know what I'm saying? The Burlington Coat Factory, the TJ Maxx, the Marshalls, you know what I'm saying? Something where you got to look for a bargain. You may get lucky and find something good in there, but most of the time it's just the aftermarket stuff that's a little bit cheaper. I got to give the variety of price ranges where the Panthers may look, and there's some good value that they can find at each spot. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and the bell icon. All kind of Panthers content, draft content for the Panthers, but draft content in general. I'm dropping this stuff like hotcakes, and I'm on top of the news, and get your water cooler talking points 3 to 5 business days in advance dealing with your boys. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and also stop what you're doing and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps me out in the algorithm with the engagement. I really appreciate that. So let's go Neiman Marcus shopping. The upper tier wide receiver that I hear is the prize and apple of everybody's eye is T. Higgins. Now T. Higgins, he's the wide receiver for the Bengals currently. We'll see what happens there as far as his contract. I think everybody thinks that they're not going to be able to afford Joe Burr, who just signed a $250 million contract last offseason. T. Higgins is there as a nice wide receiver too, but we know Jamar Chase is coming down the bend, and he's liable to break the bank. Depending on what Justin Jefferson gets, and it's probably going to be Jamar Chase probably going to double down and make it even worse on there. We're talking $25, maybe even $30 million for a wide receiver in the future for Jamar Chase. So it's going to be hard pressed for them to keep all those guys together. So everybody expects T. Higgins to be available for some sorts. They could still keep him, tag him, and then trade him, but we'll see. According to Spot Track, his value is $18.6 million. I disagree. I think he will be the hottest receiver on the market. He's young. He's still, like I said, has a lot of juice and upside for him. He showed that when Jamar Chase was injured that he has wide receiver one potential. I think he can command anywhere between $22 million and above. You know what I'm saying? But T. Higgins is a guy that I think can be somebody that Bryce can just throw it up to and just say, hey, T is down there somewhere. When he has nobody else is open, if T is one-on-one, throw it up to T. T is great with the 50-50 ball, can go up and come down with it. Give somebody dependable for Bryce to be able to have, that he knows that even when guys are covered, T. Higgins is still open. You know what I'm saying? So I think T. Higgins is a great tier 1 type of guy for the Panthers to target. But hey, make sure you guys watch the full video and let me know down below in the comments, who do you think out of the receivers that I'm going to list here is the most realistic option, but also from like a money standpoint and system fit. But who do you want to come? Who's your dream pick? But who do you think is the most realistic out of the list of the guys that I put together on this video? So make sure you watch the full list and let me know down below in the comments. Another guy in the tier 1 is going to be Mike Evans. Now, Mike Evans, obviously, I think fully expect him to be a Bucs lifer, but I have to go ahead and acknowledge the fact that he's going to hit that market. He won the contract last year. Nothing can work out. He's expressed his desire to stay in Tampa Bay, but we'll see what happens because things change. You know, and with Dave Canellis, the offensive coordinator, coming to Carolina, and his wide receiver coach, Brad Isaac, coming to Carolina as well as the offensive coordinator, maybe there's some connection there. They can convince Mike to come there. Mike has been on record talking about how positive Dave is and how much of a good coach he is. Granted, I don't think this is just locked in because Dave Canellis is on there 1 year. Mike Evans has had 8 straight 1,000-yard years. So there's been multiple offensive coordinators and quarterbacks that Mike has worked with. But Mike has that Super Bowl. He may be looking to secure that bag now after he got that ring with Tom, and he may be interested in want to stay in the South. Carolina is still the South. It's right up the street. really could be a good help for Bryce. He's that obvious deep threat. This dude runs like a gazelle. He does drop a lot of passes, but he makes up for it. Like I said, the production can't be denied for a guy even at his age. I think Mike Evans will command top dollar. I think Mike Evans will get top dollar, but he's somebody that very worthy of that contract money, and I think it should be monitored because of the connections with Canellis. And hopefully we'll see what happens. Maybe we have an inside track with those connections there. You never know. But let's go down to the next tier of wide receivers I think they should target. And the first one there is going to be Hollywood Brown. Now, Hollywood Brown's spot track value is sitting at approximately $14.8 million for him. Now, that's pretty affordable for Hollywood Brown. Now, it depends what you like. If you think he's just a smaller, deep threat there, that he may not be worth that money, or you may want a little bit something more flashier, who knows? But this may be a little bit more realistic for Carolina in terms of the price range and a guy who may be open to moving around, coming back to the East Coast, of course. Like I said, we need somebody that's fast, can get open, can run the crossing routes, can run those deep posts, those deep routes in general. Great at tracking the ball downfield. I like Hollywood Brown as a potential option there. And then the Panthers could potentially go after one of those bigger bodied receivers that should be available at 33 in the draft to pair those guys as a 1-2 punch, and then double dip maybe again with another slot guy in the draft as well. I like the idea of Hollywood Brown a part of this team. It's somebody that's not going to be as coveted, but he's going to have a pretty decent pick of the litter for where he wants to go, but I still think he's very realistic for Carolina. The next tier 2 wide receiver that I'm looking at is Calvin Ridley. Now, Calvin Ridley's valuation on Spot Track is sitting currently about $17 million per year. Not quite $20 million, what they gave to DJ Moore a couple years ago. These are guys, him and DJ were kind of drafted in consecutive picks in that same draft. Obviously, with the sports betting thing and DJ kind of moving on and kind of excelling in Chicago, their careers have taken 2 different paths. However, I still think Calvin Ridley is a guy that can get open. He's a great route runner, has great suddenness at the top of his routes, can get behind the D, is very, very productive in Jacksonville. Jacksonville has said that they want to keep him, but they're not going to be able to franchise tag him because they're going to have to pay Josh Allen, who has had a career year in terms of sacks. So it's going to be hard pressed to keep that. I know they have a little bit of turmoil between their general manager, Trent Balk, and their head coach and Doug Peterson right now in terms of what the alignment on coaching and staff. And so with Trevor Lawrence there, they still have some weapons with Ingram and Kirk, and they drafted Parker Washington, who could potentially be insurance for them. So they may not be married to Calvin Ridley. Calvin may want to stay in the South. And like I said, $17 million, I would be willing to pay Calvin Ridley that money. Same approach I talked about before, getting that bigger body wide receiver, because Calvin Ridley and Hollywood Brown both play that Z position. And I would think they should go after an X wide receiver, somebody who's a little bit bigger in the draft. And I think there's plenty of guys there that'll be right there suited for them at that 33 spot. So I love the idea of Calvin Ridley. He's probably my preferred option on this list, preferred realistic option in my opinion, just because of the price and him being available. And I think there could be good things and productive things that could happen for Calvin Ridley. All right, now let's go ahead to the department store. Let's go ahead in Burlington Coat Factory or Marshalls or TJ Maxx or Ross and shop. And no offense and no shade to these guys, but the first guy I want to look at here is Curtis Samuel. Now, Curtis Samuel's valuation on Spot Track is $11.5 million. Now, Curtis Samuel, we know he's been here before in Carolina. We did want to pay him, and that's roughly the amount of money we gave to Robbie Anderson. I personally thought they should have kept Curtis Samuel over Robbie Anderson, but there was an inside track with Robbie and Matt Rule, of course, so that was there, but we let Curtis Samuel walk. He's been beat up a lot. Maybe he'll be even cheaper than $11 million. He's very versatile, a gadget guy that we've seen him do. He can line up in the backfield. He can still get open when he's on the field. He was just wide receiver 3 or whatever in Washington and didn't get all the love that he was supposed to. He'll be very expendable for them. And with him having a new coach and new system, I fully expect Curtis Samuel to move on. Maybe he'll be open to a reunion in Carolina at some point. Will be a good guy across the middle. Like I said, he just give the ball that's good with yak and get easy yards for Bryce Young. Somebody that can be there is very dependable for him. He just has to worry about those injuries, so he may come at a value choice for us. So I'm still open to bringing Kurt Cole back to Carolina. And last but not least, the guy that I want to look at as well is Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney's valuation is $10.4 million. And they brought in DJ Moore, of course. They had the top pick thanks to us Carolina Panthers, and they have another pick inside the top 10. I fully expect them to go quarterback and potentially even wide receiver. We'll see what happens and what they do and how they navigate it, but I mean, who's available at that point. But I think them adding another wide receiver in the free agency probably makes things a little bit too crowded for Mooney. They also have a new offensive coordinator, so they may not be married to bringing him back anyway. He's a guy that has some deep threat ability as well. Can make the circus catch errors so often, just hasn't really got the opportunities that he needs. So he could be very affordable. $10 million is really nothing. That's pretty much what we're giving to Adam Thielen, a little bit less per se, but I think this is somebody that's younger, has way more speed to get down the field. I think Darnell Mooney still has a little bit of upside there. It'll be affordable. Like I said, we're shopping at Burlington when I'm talking in these categories. So these are just options we could potentially explore. I definitely wouldn't mind Darnell Mooney suiting up in the black and blue for the Carolina Panthers at the right price. But you guys let me know down below in the comments, what is your favorite wide receiver out of this group that I picked as far as realistic option? If you had to pick one, let me know how you feel down below in the comments. Chime in and let me know why you feel like this is the best option in terms of just money and being realistic based off the projections that I gave you. Without further ado, make sure you guys are subscribed, man. I really appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.